Her company's built on luck, not leadership. My father said it into the microphone at my wedding reception. The room was warm with low lighting and quiet music. My husband had just thanked everyone for coming. Glasses were raised. Cameras were still recording. My father stood beside the cake table, relaxed, almost amused. Trends are generous, he continued casually. But they change. Real businesses survive decades. Let's hope this one does. There was soft laughter. Not cruel. Not loud. Just enough. My luxury brand had made national headlines that month. We had secured international distribution. Industry analysts had called it one of the fastest-growing independent labels in our category. But in that room, none of that mattered. I felt my husband's hand tighten around mine. I smiled for the photographer. No one interrupted him. No one corrected him. He handed the microphone back and returned to his seat, satisfied. I did not defend my company. I did not defend myself. That's when I understood something had shifted. That moment clarified more than it hurt. Before I explain how things unfolded after that night, pause with me for a second. If you have ever built something carefully while the people closest to you treated it like a temporary hobby, you already understand this kind of dismissal. Have you ever been trusted to work hard, but never trusted to lead? I did not feel anger at my wedding. I felt precision. My father built his manufacturing company from the ground up. It was stable, structured, predictable. In our family, stability was the highest form of intelligence. My older brother was introduced early as the natural successor. He studied operations. He attended supplier conferences. He sat beside my father during strategy dinners. I was described differently. Creative, driven, but experimental. When I was 13, I redesigned our household inventory system because invoices were misfiled. My father laughed and said I liked organizing things that don't matter. At 16, I helped coordinate a charity gala guest list after an assistant resigned unexpectedly. The event ran smoothly. My father thanked the sponsors publicly. My contribution became a footnote. At 21, when my brother miscalculated a vendor contract renewal window, I noticed the clause and flagged it quietly. My father called me careful. Careful is not the same as powerful. Reliable is not the same as respected. When I launched my luxury brand at 22, I did it with structured planning. I studied margins before aesthetics. I negotiated factory minimums personally. I built relationships with suppliers who valued consistency over noise. My father called it a fashionable risk. When the brand began turning profit, he called it timing. When it expanded internationally, he called it momentum. He never called it leadership. In our family system, authority had already been assigned. I was tolerated because I was competent, but I was never positioned as central. Because I was considered reasonable, I was often included in logistical discussions. When my father reviewed expansion documents, I was copied on emails. When my brother negotiated regional contracts, I was asked to look things over. When paperwork required organizing, I handled it. It was presented as inclusion. It was actually access. I saw delayed payments described as temporary adjustments. I saw credit lines stretched thinner than public reports suggested. I saw supplier dependencies concentrated in ways that made the company vulnerable. No one filtered information around me. I was not perceived as competition. People speak openly around someone they consider decorative. I listened. I archived documents the same way I did for my own company. Labeled folders. Time-stamped correspondence. Backup drives. None of it was dramatic. It was habit. If I had challenged him at my wedding, it would have confirmed his narrative. He would have framed me as emotional, temporary, reactive. Silence preserved credibility. Silence also preserved proximity. As long as he believed I posed no structural threat, he remained transparent around me. Arrogance makes people sloppy. Underestimation removes caution. I did not need validation. I needed clarity. Compliance allowed me to observe without interference. And observation compounds. Months after the wedding, my luxury brand was featured on the cover of a major business magazine. The headline referenced strategic supply chain innovation and disciplined scaling. My father sent the article to our family group chat. Proud moment, he wrote. Later that week, during a private dinner with extended family, he revisited it. Media likes a narrative, he said, cutting his steak carefully. Young founder. Rapid growth. But sustainability is what separates luck from leadership. He turned toward me. Have you considered bringing in someone experienced to steady things? The table watched. I responded evenly. Our governance structure is strong. He smiled slightly. We'll see. Later that night, he asked if I would review financial projections for his company's expansion into a premium segment, one that directly overlapped with mine. He framed it as guidance. I agreed. They didn't realize what they had just handed me. Over the next year, I worked quietly. I created a secure folder titled Integration Analysis. Inside were supplier agreements, liquidity assessments, expansion projections, and archived communications. I cross-checked projected growth against actual retained earnings. I noted increasing reliance on short-term credit facilities. I tracked vendor dissatisfaction signals buried in email threads. At the same time, my company strengthened reserves. We diversified manufacturing locations. We secured longer-term raw material contracts. We reduced exposure to seasonal volatility. Industry whispers suggested my father's company might seek strategic investment. Banks hesitated. Their margins were narrowing. My company, categorized as a stable luxury infrastructure brand rather than a trend-based label, was positioned differently. Through intermediaries, exploratory conversations began. Shared sourcing, operational efficiencies, joint distribution. Formal due diligence revealed what I already understood. The company required capital stabilization. I did not approach the situation as retaliation. I approached it as alignment. Preparation replaces reaction. After headlines announced our latest international expansion, my father sent a short message. Family dinner? We should talk. The tone implied reconciliation. At dinner, he spoke about legacy and protecting the family name. He suggested a merger, structured in a way that preserved his visible authority. It would look stronger if I remained chairman, he said. Optics matter. You can focus on creative direction. Creative direction. He assumed compliance. I listened carefully. I told him I would review structural options with my legal team. That agreement activated documents already prepared. He believed he was guiding the structure. He was entering it. At our next meeting, I placed a thin folder on the table beside his wine glass. Inside were merger terms. Clear, structured, legally precise. My company would acquire controlling interest. Voting rights would shift immediately upon execution. Operational transition would occur in phases. Advisory roles would remain available. I explained liquidity constraints, debt exposure, market realities. Without acquisition, contraction was likely. With it, stability was possible. He read every page. There were no raised voices. No visible anger. Just arithmetic. Power shifted quietly. Legal filings were processed within days. Board compositions were restructured. Bank authorizations were updated. Vendor contracts were renegotiated under new ownership. My brother called first. I thought this was collaborative, he said. It is, I replied. Structurally. Industry publications described the acquisition as strategic consolidation. Internally, audits identified inefficiencies long ignored. Departments were reorganized. Some executives resigned. Others adapted. My father attended integration meetings quietly. He asked questions instead of giving directives. At family gatherings, language shifted. There were no references to luck. No commentary about trends. Just measured conversation. Justice did not arrive as spectacle. It arrived as compliance documentation. After final transition meetings concluded, I visited the original headquarters once more. The building felt smaller. Familiar, but no longer central. I walked past the office where I once reorganized invoices as a teenager. I placed my temporary access badge on the reception desk. From that point forward, governance would operate from my company's primary offices. As I stepped outside, the security gate closed automatically behind me. The sound was mechanical, definitive. I did not look back. Power does not always shift in confrontation. Sometimes it shifts in documentation. At my wedding, my father positioned my success as luck. Months later, he signed merger terms transferring control of his company to mine. He did not finish his wine before signing. He finished it after. Slowly. There was no argument. No raised voice. Only structure. I do not resent him. Resentment requires emotional proximity. What I have now is distance. Clarity. Self-respect built on audited numbers rather than approval. We speak occasionally. Our conversations are brief and factual. He asks about quarterly performance. I provide summaries. There are no more comments about luck. No references to trends. Just leadership. The humiliation at my wedding did not weaken me. It clarified hierarchy. And clarity is permanent. Some people measure authority in microphones. Others measure it in signatures. The last document he signed transferred control. Nothing about it was dramatic. It was settled, irreversible.